Hello, beautiful souls. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in. Welcome to my podcast, Misunderstood, guiding highly sensitive people through an emotional dark age. I'm your host, Candace and Jessica, and I'm honored to embark on this transformative journey with you. Have you ever felt like you didn't quite fit into the world around you or even your own family? Like your sensitivity was a burden rather than a gift? If so, you're not alone. And here's the truth. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a superpower. It's what allows you to feel deeply, to connect with others on a profound level, and to access a higher realm of consciousness. And on this podcast, we're going to explore how to harness that power and use it to create a life of purpose, passion, and true confidence. Here, in this sacred space, we honor your sensitivity as the gift it truly is. Get ready to embark on the journey of unapologetic emotional honesty and next level healing. Let's dive in together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Misunderstood, guiding highly sensitive people through an emotional dark age. I am your host, Candace and Jessica, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing an old friend of mine, a soul sister, and someone very near and dear to my heart, Jessica Sutta. She is a mother, a singer, a writer, a vaccine injury advocate, and a former member of the international platinum award-winning pop group, the Pussycat Dolls. After suffering a severe injury from the Moderna mRNA shot in August 2021, she dedicated herself to helping fellow victims and raising awareness for those who feel ignored and marginalized by society. As the creative director of React 19, a nonprofit organization that aids victims in vaccine injuries and their families in mourning, she remains steadfast in her advocacy work. I am so excited. Please help me welcome my guest, Jessica Sutta. Jessica Sutta, welcome to Misunderstood.
Thank you, beautiful. Thanks for having me. God.
I'm so excited. I know it finally worked out. We both live in the middle of nowhere, and it took like weeks for our internet to cooperate. This is real life. This is real life. So I'm so happy you're here. I kind of wanted to tell people when I interview friends from the past, it's my favorite thing because it brings up situations and accomplishments and things that you forget about. And it's so important for our upbringing, like what happened and how we know each other. So I kind of want to say it because it's hilarious. But Jessica and I met, we met lifetimes ago in 2002. We shot this Swedish soap opera in Miami, on Miami Beach from 2002 to 2003. And I have a photo. I'm going to show the photo, okay? Show this photo because I was like really in shock that it was still online, by the way. I was like, is this really online? Hold on. I'm going to show you baby Jessica.
Oh my God.
And there's baby Candace. But wait, baby Megan Fox was in our show too.
Wild. It's so crazy.
So that's how we met.
A whole different lifetime ago. But I have to tell you, that was one of the funnest projects I was ever on. One of my favorite jobs ever. I loved it. I loved it. I loved the friendships we made. I played a gothic pill popping teenager. And I just loved it. I'm not the greatest actress, but I loved it.
Well, and you're from Miami, so it was like really good for you. I remember going to your house one day. I don't know why we were there. We were there by your pool. Was it your birthday? It was something. And we're all at your house.
You guys all over. Yeah, I just adored all of you. Yeah. And that was the best part. I was home, I was saving money. I was in my hometown. I just loved it. I loved going to set every day. Loved the directors. It was cool. The storyline was whack as hell.
It was so whack. Do you know how many actors came from that show though? Like it's weird. Like people we know, like famous people. Right. Well, I would say you're famous too, but so many famous people came from that show. Yes, you are. We're talking about that. But I think it's amazing. I actually had a totally different experience than you because I had just started dating someone in Los Angeles. And 3 months into our relationship, I was like, bye, I'm going to Miami. It's my first gig. And he's like, what do you mean? You're leaving our relationship? And so I was doing a long distance relationship for those, 10 months that we shot. And we shot 130 episodes. It was crazy.
But a day, 13-hour day, every day. Yeah.
It was insane. But I will say I did love the people and I did love the work. So for me, I was kind of like, oh, I wish he would stop annoying me. I just want to dive in here. This is so fun. And it was just it was like the perfect college experience. It really was, or high school experience. Because you were You were like 18 or something, weren't you?
18. That's right.
I was like 22.
Wow. Well, first of all, you don't age at all. You are stunningly gorgeous still. Oh, thank you.
How are you? You look exactly the same.
Dude, thank you for saying that. I don't feel it at all, but I definitely, it's happiness is, I think, what keeps me feeling younger and maybe looking younger. Of course, some mascara and some concealer helps too. But
you literally look amazing.
You're beautiful. You too. And you were so extraordinary on that show. You played the bit, but you're not a bit.
I was acting, I promise. Total acting.
No, I was always enamored by your beauty, and I knew it was hard for you because your boyfriend was in LA. But it was fun to have that experience with you. Great memories.
It was so great memories. And I was thinking, by the way, it's funny that I played the bitch. Lindy Maddox was my name because I always played that role. Or like the college cool chick. I'm like, none of this feels like me, but okay. Sure. Got it. Can I please leave this career and just be what I am? Just go deep into people's psyches all day long. But speaking of psyches, so you and I reconnected over, I think, Instagram 4 or 5 years ago because I was posting about, and you were posting at the same time. I was posting about my long COVID and how it was gnarly. And you had posted about your vaccine injury. And I was like, whoa, these symptoms are so similar, not vaccinated, but long COVID and vaccinated. And I kind of want to just dive right in. But before I say that, if you guys don't already know or didn't listen to my intro, Jessica was a member of the Pussycat Dolls. This is what happened to her after our crazy little Swedish soap opera. She became a world famous Pussycat Doll. I remember, hold on, got to back it up. I remember seeing you on TV and I'm like, I know her. What? Like, I can't believe that's you. This is crazy. And you were freaking amazing and perfect for that, by the way. I was like, of course, though. And I want to kind of talk about that before we dive into the next thing, because that's amazing to have that as part of your identity and part of your book of work is incredible. Were you in shock by what happened to your life? Were you just, did it feel natural? Like, bring me through how you get that, how it goes while you're doing that, and then what happens after. Walk us through this. How do you become a Pussycat Doll?
Just kind of make some trouble here. So yeah, I right after Miami, I moved to Los Angeles and I was trying to act, and I was not a great actress. I was not looking jobs. And I was like, what's going on? So I ended up having to dance again. So I got a dance agent. And my first job was with Smokey the Bear, a public service announcement. And we were putting out forest fires with our top hats, as you do, in like leotard tuxedos in the middle of the forest. And they eventually cut out that part. But anyway, the best part of it was that I met Robin Anton, the creator of the Pussycat Dolls. And we totally hit it off on set. And she goes, I want you to cut your bangs and I want you to be a part of this group I created. It's called the Pussycat Dolls. So the following week was the audition. And it was like,
wow, it's fast.
Girls there. It was crazy. And just like that, I was a part of this beautiful burlesque underground show. And at the time we didn't have the record deal. So it was easy to get the job, but to really maintain the job and get into the pop group was about a year-long audition process. And it was crazy. It was crazy.
Talk about anxiety. I would be so anxious every day for a year.
100%. Yeah, I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. And the cast before, not everyone was very nice. It was a very competitive nature. Dancers just kind of have this way about them and they want the job. And I came in very sensitive, took everything personal. So it was a rough go for me. And I was actually shocked that I even made the group, to be honest with you. So it went down from cast of 20 to 10 to 6. And that's what the Pussycat Dolls became, in like a pop group. So,
I love that. Well, this is what I was going to say is I feel like in my own life, I notice how what's meant to be, you're kind of ushered in. Like, it's not even like you even know what's coming, but that's kind of what happened to me when I started modeling and acting. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And they're like, here's your agent in LA. And I'm like, what? When like a lot of other people would try their whole life for this thing. I didn't even know I was being thrown into it. And that's what it sounds like with Pussycat Dolls. It's like, you were obviously very talented. So you were your talented self. You were a singer, a dancer, all the things. But you're like, what? This is going to be now a singing group? Like now I'm going to be on stages all over the world. Was that exciting, insane? Did you like that? Did you like being on stage and doing that?
I loved it. I lived for it. Being on stage with a live audience is a high that you just can't attain ever. It's just like, there's nothing better than that, other than having a baby, of course. But it's definitely one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And ironically enough, my mom called me Pussycat my whole life. Like, what a weird name. So yeah, it felt like it was divine for sure. And I definitely felt like I loved what it stood for. Inside every woman is a pussycat doll. And it was about, celebrating the feminine, and it was just fun, and it was sassy but also classy, and it was just a great fit for me, I felt like. And I definitely identified myself for a very long time as a pussycat doll. Well, we'll talk about that later, how I broke from that, which was the most freeing, I feel, so
I was just going to say, I got chills when you said that, because it seemed very divine for you. The fact that that's your nickname, it's like, wow, that's just super perfect. It seems so divine for you. And what I was kind of thinking about this morning before we got on the call is like, sometimes the hardest things that happen in life are exactly what need to happen to break us back into the truth of who we are. And sometimes the most exciting things are sort of the lead way into that. But I noticed, like, you're a pussycat doll, you had this amazing life, you had a baby, you got married, like you literally were living everything, probably the dream for yourself, I would say. I mean, it looked like a dream to me, maybe not, we'll find out. But then this thing happens that changes your life. So kind of walk us through the timeline of those things, or did something happen before that? Like, how did this sort of go for you?
The Pussycat Dolls actually broke up in 2009. And I went off and did dance music and had achieved some level of success, not mainstream, but it was never the level of success of Pussycat Dolls. And what I've noticed is when you identify yourself as like where you were and like the stardom of a group or the popularity of a group, it also starts to affect you personally. And then it really kind of degrades like who you are as a person, and you get very, very lost. So there was a very long time where like I went to alcohol or went to things to kind of fulfill this void of like really not who I was other than a pussycat doll. And I guess in 2018, we decided to get back together. And it was like very exciting and exhilarating. And I was really looking forward to it. And we get to rehearsal. We have the most amazing first show. And then it starts falling back into how it was a decade ago, where it was just the synchronicity and things were just not vibing anymore. It just wasn't as magical as it was 10 years ago. And it just fell back into like not bad behavior, but past behavior, where the reason why we broke up was because we were kind of having dysfunction within the group. We weren't growing or evolving as artists at all. And it was just kind of like, so when we went back, I realized after one show, I was like, God, this just doesn't feel right to me anymore. I love that I experienced it. It's beautiful. However, I just feel like this isn't me anymore. So February 2020 comes around and they start closing the borders because of COVID. And I got home and I knew then and there, I'm like, this is not for me anymore. As horrible as COVID was, it really helped me kind of see and seek out who I was inside, and it wasn't what I wanted in my life. We weren't evolving as artists. We weren't singing live. I go to introduce myself on stage and my microphone's not on, and I'm just like, I've had 10 years of my own success with a live microphone. Maybe I'm not the greatest singer, but I could not, for me as an artist, that's not fulfilling. And I'm not a puppet, so that was the main thing. So then we ended up getting our son, MJ, and I had him and I held him and I looked at him and I said, oh yeah, there's no way in hell I'm going back to the Pussycat Dolls. Like, this is done. This is what I've searched for my whole life. This is what I've chaste, better than any place on stage is holding this little being in my arms. And I finally found my purpose, and that was being a mother. And that was it for me. Yeah.
Oh my God. Love healed you 100%.
100%. And I look fondly, to the past. I wish we hadn't gotten back together, because it definitely like revoked more like things from the past. And then I'm like, you hold on to resentment and things like that. But the past 4 years have allowed me to really let go of that and really find myself, But yeah, so that's kind of how it ended with me and the Pussycat Dolls. So
that tracks for me. It feels like that would make so much sense. All the things that you said. And what I have a question about, which is interesting, is I absolutely understand identifying with something bigger than ourselves, right? That isn't even our true self. But what I think is interesting is, before the Pussycat Dolls, do you feel like you knew who you were? Do you feel like you knew your purpose before then? Or did something shift because it was like at another level now? Or was it all that external validation that was such a drug, that was such a confirmation of I'm good, and then that's gone? A confirmation of I have a purpose, a place in the world, and now that's gone. How do you think that you started to lose yourself or your true identity in that group?
Oh, almost immediately. First of all, I felt like I wasn't good enough to be in it. I always felt just never, so that's kind of just the curse of being a dancer and a perfectionist. And, we were a pop group where we were told what to say and to dress and to your character and this. So each year that went by, I went further and further away of who I thought I was, which I had no idea who I was coming into LA. I was just this young, naive girl that just, no clue who it was. And then the further and further away I got from myself, the further away I like didn't want to be close to myself anymore. I was actually afraid to be on my own. So I would go to relationships, or I would go to alcohol to get further and further away of who I truly was. Because for some reason, I didn't think that girl was good enough. And I never embraced her, even though I had the idea and I thought, oh yes, I'm humble and this. No, it wasn't that at all. I was completely lost, and I think Hollywood can do that too. It can inflate your sense of ego, and you just get lost along the way,
This is such a perfect example of literally everything I teach in my courses, because it is the journey, and yours is not different than anyone else's journey. It's just different stuff, right? Different characters. But the journey of finding the true self and losing the self, and then having external sources to fill the void of self, which is really just knowing who you are, but because you love yourself. So many of us, especially in this narcissistic society, are not taught that who you naturally are is worthy. It doesn't matter what you accomplish. It doesn't matter who likes you. It doesn't matter what your body weight is, right? That's a huge thing in Hollywood. It doesn't matter. What matters is what your value is to yourself, to everyone that you know, to the people in your life, what your point is in the world, what your purpose is in the world. And most people don't know that. And they're not going to know that because they don't know who they are. And then when they find it outside of them and that thing is gone, I always say, like, corporate codependency is huge. People feel safe in a corporation because they know how to show up. They know who to please. And I'm like, when that company's gone, so are you. When that narcissistic partner's gone, so are you. You might as well define yourself based on yourself, which is obviously where we're going for you. So first of all, I have to say I'm proud of you, because that's a massive thing to go through. Like, massive, especially publicly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, huge. For sure. Yeah, especially in the social media world too. I think it definitely adds another layer of stress and criticism. And you have to build very thick skin, which I, still don't have, so.
I just love how humble and like honest you have not changed at all. And like given all the things you've been through, you could have changed. And maybe there were times where you were like more this, more that, but like, this is how I remember you specifically. Like, your inner world is the same. It's beautiful.
After my injury, which I'm sure we'll get into, it humbled me to a place where I could actually cry about it. I met myself, and I know that ego doesn't mean shit, and I definitely did change in the group 100%. I did. And I regret a lot of my behavior, but I've given it all to God. And now each day I live in the best way that I can, and amends and all of that, And and far away from Hollywood.
Yeah, we both moved far away from Hollywood. We are in the South. Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that funny? Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? I just want to say this quickly is when I moved away from LA, it was because of the Woolsey fire, right? My house was in the Malibu fire, but I noticed I kept migrating more west at that point, like further and further away from Hollywood. And when I left LA, it was almost like the vibration was so different from my own. It just didn't feel right anymore after being there 20 years. And I was being pushed into like my next dimension. That's when my business started going like kind of crazy too. And I was like, oh, my next purpose of just living totally authentically can't happen in this environment, which is what I kind of see for you too. Like you have to go somewhere that resonates with the healing work that is required. And sure. Yeah, I mean, I could literally talk about this for hours with you, but I do want to move into a really important topic of meeting yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny that sometimes like I said, our biggest traumas make us meet ourselves. I often say that I've always known that I wanted to do this ever since I was a kid. I wanted to be a spiritual psychologist. I wanted to do this since I was a kid, but it didn't exist. So I'm like, I guess I'll have to go the other route, entertainment. But what's funny is I think I saw a quote today. So I thought it was interesting that I saw it today. And there's this quote about people who are obsessed with astrology, psychology, or personalities were children who never were understood in the home. And my podcast is called Misunderstood. And what I do is deep dives into this all day. And I thought, I think that's why I know that's why I knew my purpose early on, because my soul was always craving the love I wasn't getting. It was always craving the understanding I wasn't getting. And I decided I'm going to make myself understand myself and everyone so I can have that connection. And so some people get that hit of like their purpose later in life, like we'll talk about with you. I feel like mine was early, and there's a double-edged sword because when you're young and you're so traumatized, it kind of makes you go into almost certain paths of other people who just don't know who they are or just didn't have all the self-love or just, right? It's kind of, we're all the same. But for you, this came at 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
About 4 years. Well, yeah, about 4 years ago, a little less. So, yeah.
And tell us what that looks like.
So, having MJ transcended me. And I'm like, okay, I'm done with Hollywood. I'm done. I'm retiring. This is great. I love being a mom, right? And then it got deeper after I had an adverse reaction to the Moderna shot. And it's the most taboo thing you could ever talk about. And I totally get it. And I lost anything I built in my career because of me speaking out, but I had to because it made me so sick. And it made me fall to my knees and surrender to a point, into a place where everything around me, and I call it the Matrix now, Hollywood, all of it, it was all fake. And then no one was believing me how sick I was. So I'm more isolated, being made fun of, all of these things. And my pain is real. It's so painful. I'm in the hospital. They're gaslighting me. They're not doing the proper testing to see what's really going on with me. So for me, it felt like I was at the brink of death, because what happened was it started as a muscle spasm, but then it ended up being burning through my rib cage, like ripping through my rib cage and up and down my spine. Every part of my skin hurts, my fingers, my toes, my eyelids, everything. I mean, it's just like, it completely hijacked my whole body. And I had to surrender. And I just had a conversation with God. And I realized then and there what was most important in life. And it was nothing that I ever thought it was. What I thought my purpose was not my purpose. I love to entertain. Don't get me wrong. I miss it. I'm still going to do it eventually, somehow, some way. But that's not what's important in life. Health, close to God, family, happiness. I mean, it just hit me like a freight train, Candace, and it humbled me beyond anything I could have ever experienced in my whole life. And I was 39 at that time. So yeah, it took me a long time to get there, but I got there.
Honestly, I keep getting chills when you talk, because the words that you say and the way you describe experiences is exactly what I experienced, but in a different way, right? And it's like, when you come back to what matters, I had a similar experience to you of being gaslit. This is why I always say that the system we live in is a narcissistic system. It is an emotionally unintelligent system. It is an emotional dark age. They like to deny things that they don't understand and make you wrong. And my situation was being a kid at 7 years old with ADHD and them telling me there's something wrong. And I know that there's not. I know that there's something wrong with the system who can't understand my way. With you being told you're not feeling that, you're not really sick. How infuriating to be like, I'm probably going to die here and no one is going to validate or mirror my experience. How amazing it must have been for you to find other vaccine injured people with a similar experience who are like, oh, hell yeah, girl, this is real. And I know that this topic is taboo and it's misunderstood and there's a lot of judgment out there, which is why I say this. I'm known for saying the shit that a lot of people don't want to say because it's true. And I think the reality is it is a real thing. Does it happen to everyone? No, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen to a lot of people. And the level that you went through specifically, which is why I was so excited to talk about this with you, was next level to what a lot of people think it even is. Like you literally weren't even walking at one point. You didn't know if you were going to live at one point. So when it gets that serious and people keep denying that it's real, how do you deal with that? What were you thinking at that time?
It was incredibly isolating. And that's when I found myself. I felt, obviously my husband was amazing and he had my back. And he's the first person that said, I think you have a vaccine injury. And he showed me a video of a friend of ours in Boston. This girl, it was like at least 1,000 women saying, dear Pfizer, and then like letting them get all the symptoms that they were going through. And it was everything I was going through. And I shut down the computer. I said, I don't want to see this because all my belief system is about to crumble. Right. So I had some empathy and sympathy for people that could not accept it and still can't because their whole belief system will crumble. And it is like, you're going to go through a stage of grief. And that's what I went through, like anger and sadness and all of that. And I stopped talking to a lot of people. I stopped trying to convince everyone, you know, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep. I was on my phone looking for like UFO, like conspiracy theories. And I ended up coming across a round table with Senator Ron Johnson talking about the vaccine injured. And this girl, Brianne Dressen, who is the co-founder of React 19, the nonprofit for the vaccine injured, did a testimony. And everything she was saying was resonating. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for these testimonies and for these brave souls to go out into DC and to use their voices, I don't know where I'd be today. They saved my life. And it was eye-opening. And then I went even deeper. And that's when I found Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, read that in 2 days. You know, I was just seeking answers because it felt so lonely. And I was like, why, you know? And I truly did believe, Candace, I was on the brink of death because I didn't know what was going on. There's still part, even 4 years later, where I have moments like the other day, I lay on the couch and I'm like, oh my God, am I okay? You know? And every test says I'm fine. I mean, I have lupus markers now, but I'm like, what is this going to manifest into? You know? So it's constantly giving it to God. So that's kind of how I found like my sanity was through the internet. And then I reached out to React 19. And Louis, who was heading the Instagram page, he like totally helped me and was beautiful. He's actually injured too, as myocarditis, which is so not rare, which is so sad. Young people, right?
Yeah.
And then I became friends with them. They connected me to other vaccine injured, and we built a community. And they were asking, do you think you want to speak out publicly? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I was just in treatment day, and there's all these bigger stars there, way bigger than me, bigger platforms, bigger outreach, that were all sitting around getting treatments, so sick. And they're like, are you going to speak out? No, I don't want to speak out. You're going to speak out? No, I don't want to speak. And it was just like, I'm like, oh my God. And that's when the matrix started to crumble even more. And I'm like, in Hollywood, we're told to praise these people, eat what they do, dress how they do, and all this. So we base our lives on these people. But now they're holding this massive, deadly secret from the public, and they're not going to say anything. You know, I have compassion for contracts. I get it. But at that time, for me, I'm retired. I was ready to sail off to the sunset with my son, you know, and I was like, I have to do something. And then the morning that I decided that I was going to do it, this lady was on the news, and she was laughing about the fact that they were stopping the mandates for the military. And she goes, can you believe they still don't think it's safe and effective? And I am so sick And I'm looking at the TV, and that was the last time I watched mainstream television. And I reached out to EPOC, Jan from American Thought Leaders, and asked him if I could be on a show. So the very conservative network. I didn't expect for a Pussycat Doll to be, hey, can I come on your show? You know, and because I was never a conservative before this, I've always been very open-minded, and but that's changed considerably just because of the way the world has become too.
Absolutely agree.
We're under, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I spoke out, and it was very scary. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And even though I pissed off a lot of people, I think I woke a lot of people up and hopefully saved some lives, because that's why I do it. Every unfollow that I get, every hate thing that I get, I'm like, it was worth it, because I know that I'm helping someone. And especially when we spoke and you said that you were affected by the virus, which was a gain of function situation. So it was a bioweapon. I hate to say it, especially the first hit of it. So a lot of people had autoimmune conditions from it, heart conditions from it. It's very real. And I remember you're like, what should I take? I'm like, take this and this and this.
Yeah. No, I honestly, we can go wherever we want with that, because honestly, I feel like you speaking up and being in alignment with your truth, regardless of who you lose. I always say, lose the ones that aren't aligned, gain more that are. And, even with COVID, it's like connected with so many heart-centered friends and people that I align with mentally, emotionally in the path. And I don't give a shit if other people don't agree, because it's truth for you. And one of the things there's so much I want to say, but one of the things I think is important is you and I both living in Hollywood. It's a bunch of false idols, people. The reason that I learned this is when I started sitting behind this desk 12 years ago, and I started coaching and doing therapy for very famous people. I realized, holy shit, nobody knows the reality. Holy shit, it set me free, Jess. It set me free, because I was like, oh my God, it is all a delusion and an illusion. And what was so amazing to me is I realized everybody is the fucking same. We have the same insecurities and emotions and issues. I have so many insane stories I can't tell because of NDAs. But one of the first times I realized, it was very early on in my career as a coach, this less than 18, I think she was 16. So her mom had to whatever. So she's a 16-year-old, very, very famous actress. And I remember her calling me. I was sleeping at 2 a.m. from this extreme tragedy that was going on right after she got off the red carpet, and literally wanted to tell me the story, because she had nowhere to go. And I remember thinking, you're just on the red carpet. Just put this out there, Hollywood. You're on the red carpet. All the photos are being taken of you. You're going to look amazing tomorrow in every magazine. And you're calling me at 2 a.m. because you can't handle what's at home. And I was thinking to myself, this is why we need to stop putting Hollywood and anyone else that you think has a dominant energy or is better than you because of these man-made frickin' measures and statuses and bullshit that God didn't create, but wounded humans created, and really take yourself off that. Because the reality is, when you see what's real, you're like, oh, it's like an immediate permission slip to own everything about yourself. And what you said that was so beautiful is you saw immediately what was of highest value: family, health, community, God. If we could all live that way, I've been the happiest person alive since I've been doing that. And it's right? It's a purpose-driven life. It's not an ego-driven life. And the reason we have this ego-driven life is because we were born into this crazy society that said something about your authentic self is wrong or not enough, because we had parents that actually followed that didn't do their own work. And so sometimes it's something massive to wake us up, to bring us back to our authentic value system and who we truly are. You can't not be who you are now, because you need to stay healthy. You need to be a mom to your son. You need to actually live a certain way to survive. And so one of the questions I had to ask, I love my little rant. Sorry about that, but it happens.
Oh, I love it. It's beautiful and smart.
Preaching. I love it. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, first of all, I love that you found your tribe, really, of just authentic individuals and things that resonate. And how did you start to feel better? Because I remember when I went through long COVID, it was 4 to 6 months. half my body would go numb. I couldn't speak some days. I couldn't articulate words. I didn't remember my name. Like weird ass shit was happening to me. And I just had a very light COVID thing, right? So I always intuitively knew if I got the vaccine, I might not make it. That was my intuition. So when I saw you, I was like, I think I was right. How did you start to heal? Because I still get some of them too. Like if I have caffeine or if I'm too stressed, I'm like, ooh, uh-oh. Like I get those weird hits where I have to bring myself back to present and center. How did this start to get better for you?
Over time. It hasn't gotten completely better. I'm not fully healthy yet, which is so frustrating. Yesterday, I had one of the most beautiful days. I didn't have much pain, but since I've taken the second shot, my whole body's been hijacked. So it's just not me anymore. What makes me feel better is having beautiful conversations like this. My son walking if I can that day, it's tough. Life gets really tough, I can't wait for the day that God really lifts this from me because I'm always in meditation when I walk and I feel like when we live in the matrix, I've turned into a crazy person. I don't care. But I feel like the illness is just kind of evaporating off of me. So I'm in a meditation. So I feel like it's evaporating off of me.
Ooh,
it's so integrated in DNA. But it's constant visualization of that for me, handing it to God, handing over the resentment. Yes. Because living in the resentment creates more disease. And I feel like I don't want to let them win, because there's people behind this that didn't want us to stay healthy. And I'm not going to let them win, It even gets dark where in the vaccine injured community, especially in Canada, one of the things that's offered is assisted suicide. And I've known a lot of people that have actually taken this. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because I
can't stop with the full body chills. Like we need to do a part 2 about conspiracy theories and truths next time. But what the hell is going on? My whole body's like tingling. I'm like, that's true. That's truth. I can feel it.
Unfortunately, and that's a big thing in Canada. I don't know how it's going now, but we've known people that have decided to take that route. And for me, I know that there's people behind this. And my whole thing is that is not an option. You need to keep on fighting. We need to be strong together because we are stronger. Our voices are louder together. And that's the one thing that I try to drive into everyone that I meet that's vaccine injured, because the censorship, Zuckerberg comes out, well, yeah, Biden this, I'm sorry. Oh, really? You're sorry? I actually know about, 12 people that couldn't get a hold of the community on the Facebook group chats and actually took their life. My friend Bree had to deal with so many missed messages where it was the next day they were gone and she could do nothing about it. The trauma that has been instilled on this community has been unforgivable. It's good to change now. But that's how severe these injuries are. And that's why it's so important to get louder and louder. And when Bobby Kennedy asked me to be on his campaign as a surrogate, I was like, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Talk about vaccine injury. He goes, yeah. I was like, cool.
Amazing.
It's so important because no one else will let you do that. But it takes the ones that understand the how critical this is and how painful it's been for us, and also decades of other vaccines and things like that. And all the truths are going to be coming out very soon. It takes a particular man, so we're very lucky to have him as a champion.
Absolutely, I think it's really interesting. I get so excited when people speak truth because my whole body shivers. It's like this weird thing, and so I'm like, yes. And I can't deny it. I'm like, that's my person right there. But what's so interesting is I feel your role now is your God-given role. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, even when you speak, I'm like accurate. I know, but I can feel truth. And when someone is aligned so highly with something that I can feel into energetic alignment, I'm like, oh yes. This is what upsets me so much when people down people for their beliefs or down. There is a reason people believe the things that they do. I love that you're in the position that you're in. I feel like I can't wait for the deepest truth. My life is about finding the deepest truth. And so when people are in extreme resistance to you in that way or extreme defensiveness, I say, what are you denying in yourself? What are you afraid to look at? Because if you don't have something to defend, people who are in their authentic truth don't have to defend anything. It is what it is. It just is. Right. And that's what I love about truth work is it just is. You'll see. And it might take time. But what I think is interesting is the people that fight against it most, I look at and I say, shit, how we do one thing, we do all things. You're living in a bubble of denial and you're about to wake up from the matrix, whatever that is for you. And it's not going to be cute. And you mentioned something, just to go back a few minutes, you mentioned something about you're going to have to break down your whole belief system to really enter the authentic reality of who you are and what life is and what the world is, which we need to do a part 2 because I really want to dive
100%.
Oh yeah. But I feel like I felt for so long that I was living, like you said, alone in the realities that I was just intuitively seeing and feeling. And it's so exciting when you can. So this is why I think things are getting so polarized now, because I feel like there's people who are busy living in the matrix of denial and people who have woken the fuck up from it. And it's really hard, but it's really good. It's like meaningful. And neither one I can say right or wrong. It doesn't matter. But what matters is the fight between needing someone to be right and wrong, because we have to deny reality in somebody else, which I think is the most frustrating fucking thing on the planet, is having your reality denied and you're literally living it. And that's what I hear you've been doing for the last 4, almost 5 years, is living in this reality that now you're fighting for. And other people can literally in your face say, oh, that's bullshit. That doesn't happen. And you're like, come again? I can't walk today. When you just said that some days now you're like, can I even walk? It's like 4.5 or 4 some years later. And you're still wondering, am I going to be okay today? How do people deny that? Like it pisses me off so much. Obviously, you can tell.
They're in fear because, to realize, I was so angry when I realized I was lied to my whole life, that everything we've been taught, I even questioned the moon landing, not to go into more conspiracy. I really do believe that they have controlled and manipulated us in a way where it's like, what is really true? And I question everything, and we're allowed to question everything. And I don't live for other people anymore. I live for myself. I always get the comments, well, you don't look like you're 27, like you're in the Pussycat Dolls anymore. I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm a mom. It's
you actually do look the same. You actually do. But
thank you. But it's wild that people just hold on to these ideas that make them comfortable and safe in their space, but they're not allowed to break out of that. So I hope that this coming year, when, all these truths are coming out, which is going to be very painful for people, especially vaccine injury. I think when people realize that it's not rare, that's the one thing that I've been saying, drilling to people. Like, once you realize this is not rare, you're going to regret this. You're going to regret that you didn't do something sooner. Because the people that got the vaccine are, they care about the community. They want to make sure grandma's safe. You know what I mean? So big hearts. So for them to told that they were lied to, possibly in danger, because mRNA technology has been proven very dangerous since 1986. I spoke to Dr. Judy Mikovits, who was one of the people that helped create it. She was at our house for dinner. Like, I've been seeking out everyone to get my truths, right? It's going to instill a lot of fear, but there's nothing to fear. But we need to come together and find resolutions and stop this from happening to anyone else. I don't want people to go through what I go through, ever.
No. And I had nothing compared to what you had, and the little bit that I had by just getting COVID. I remember, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I remember a day I was driving the car where all of a sudden I couldn't remember my name or what I was or who I was. It was so fucking scary. This was a few years ago. And I remember thinking, maybe just take me, because I don't know how to survive like this. And that was like, I had a brief moment where I thought that, and I'm like, oh my God, that's because I was in this spell of not knowing what reality is because of a neurological, and they said it's very neurologically, it affects you neurologically. Thank God mine was like brief moments and it was over. But I just remember in that little moment, I'm like, think about someone who deals with that on the daily. I can't even imagine it. I literally can't imagine it. And so I just have to tell you, your bravery and doing this. And it's funny when people are like, oh, you're so brave. I'm like, it's not that I'm brave. It's that it's true. So it is true, though. It is brave for you to be so aligned with your truth that you don't have a choice, right? That's how I feel too in some ways. And I want to ask you something, and you don't have to answer this, but that's why we have to do a part 2. But I want to ask you, something you can talk about. What do you think one of the biggest truths that may or may not come out? What do you think it is, or how would it really affect the people that are in such denial of these said truths that are about to come out? What do you think one of those things would be? I know it's like hard to.
Very controversial. I will say that autism is going to be one of the biggest subjects coming out of the next year of disclosure, because there are no testing to really indicate what it's coming from. But the parents that have autistic children that took their very healthy baby hitting milestones, take them to the wellness visit, and the very next day they don't even make eye contact. They're gone. Having said that, having been sick by a vaccine myself, I can see that being a possibility because, like you said, it hits you neurologically. It does. It attacks the central nervous system. It inflames the brain. It does things that, unfortunately, I can't imagine this happening to a little baby. That's another reason why I had to speak out. So a baby that can't articulate, that their whole body hurts, that they can't remember what a name is, or you know what I mean? Like they can't articulate anything. And it's just not fair. So I think that's one of the things, I hope I'm proven wrong. I really do. But unfortunately, I live it on a molecular level where it's like, I don't know. And, I was told that there are no safety testings, not one for any of the vaccines since 1986. So not one. The hearing that happened the other day with Bobby, all these senators like, well, there's all this rigorous testing and all these blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay, well, if you want to show me the test, then I'll apologize. But they can't prove it because he won a lawsuit against Anthony Fauci because Anthony Fauci could not provide it. So all this gaslighting, it just can be killed with one sentence. There are no safety testings, no double-blind placebo testings. You don't want to put that in your body or your child's body. It's that simple.
And because the authorities that be say this is what you need to do. Like one thing I kind of want to just add in here. I also have always been like independent, and I started going to more of a conservative side because during COVID, if I can't go to a restaurant, I can't fly and I can't work because I don't get vaccinated, that is taking away a lot of freedoms. That is saying you have to do this thing that could potentially really hurt you if you want to survive. Can we just say that for a minute? My own mother said, I'm sorry, Mom, if you don't get the vaccine, I can't see you. Because a lot of people, like you said, are really wanting to take care of community and older people. And I understood that. So I said, I guess I won't be seeing you for a few years. And I actually haven't seen her since, which isn't because of that reason. But that was the beginning of, I guess I can't see certain people. And I guess that's fine because I don't want to die or potentially get injured or potentially go against my instinct that says so, because no one understands what I'm feeling in my long COVID. They think it's just a prolonged cold. No, it's not. I literally don't know my name some days. So the fact that it's interesting, the fact that you can't do these things or make money or live life or go see loved ones unless you do this thing was very interesting to me. So again, it's that gaslighting. Like, these are the false idols. These are authorities. And when you look under the mask of the authorities, which is also what I've been doing for 12 years, is interviewing people or having clients who are in a very high authority position who are really wounded emotionally. And you're like, they're making decisions based on their reality, not the be all end all. We have to become advocates for ourselves. We have to live a healthy, aligned life for ourselves. No matter if people say that's right, wrong, good, bad, we have to become intuitive with ourselves and really own that. And so, Jessica Sutta, is there anything else you'd like to add today before we do part 2 coming soon?
You let me know when you want to do part 2. I love it. I just adore you. And it's been 20 years, almost 22 years. Can you believe it? They're 23 maybe. Oh my God. But
like the first thing I said when you got on is, did we have coffee yesterday? It feels the same. Like, this is so weird.
It's so weird. It's like we were going to the set of Miami and I was a gothic pill popping teenager, like black nails and like, I
want to find a photo and post that. That's amazing.
There's actually clips, but I won't say that out loud.
Don't look.
You look gorgeous.
No, but well, what I think is funny, like you got to be goth girl and now you're like this burlesque chick. And then you're like, you get to be all these cool things. I'm always just, what was I like, sorority girl or bitch girl or what? I'm like, what's that?
So far from who you are, babes. You're so much more. And it's been such a pleasure to talk to you and to see how extraordinary you are and who you've become is beautiful, and how you're healing the world is just such a beautiful thing to see. I'm proud of you. Truly.
I almost want to cry. I will say the exact same thing to you. Thank you. I think this is one of my favorite things is when I haven't seen someone for 20 years and our paths are now so aligned again. Like what I thought was so cool the last few years is my closest girlfriends or people I always had a connection with that was special. We are in the same vortex still. Like we have different lives. You became a mom, you became a wife, you became a Pussycat Doll. All these crazy cool things happen. But here we are, like having the same authentic conversations again. And I just value true friendship and true connection so deeply. And I just thank you so much for being in my life, for being in the lives of so many people that you are healing with your deep, amazing truth. I can't wait to continue our conversation part 2. I'm not lying about that. That is happening, and maybe part 3 and 4. But there's so much to be said. And I just love you so much. And thank you so much. And you'll be seeing more of Jessica very soon.
Hey, thank you guys.